Are we planning on making a sensational offer to sign Frenkie De Jong this summer? Well, in today's news, my friends, we'll discuss all the big crazy reports that have come out today. We'll dissect them, get our teeth into them, and see what they're really saying. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that like button. Let's go over 2k likes. Shout out to everyone that showed love in yesterday's 5 things we learned video. But before we get into anything, today's video was brought to you by Parimatch UK. How would you like the chance to win a £50 free bet? This season, Parimatch UK have launched their new completely free-to-play football prediction game called Hat-Trick Hunt. Each week, you'll get the opportunity to predict 3 scores from the Premier League with 3 rewards for each correct prediction that you get correct. Get all 3 scores correct and you will be rewarded with a £50 free bet. My friends, it really is that simple. So as you guys see on screen beside me, these are my score predictions, and for the first one, I'm expecting Tottenham to draw 2-2 against Brighton. I just feel like there's moments for Brighton to take advantage of Spurs on the counter-attack, and I do think that Spurs have the quality offensively to take advantage of Brighton's backline too. I'm expecting Arsenal to beat West Ham 2-1 in a close London derby game, and for the final game, I think Aston Villa and Man United should cancel each other out, and that will be a 2-2 draw. So they're my predictions. Do you guys agree with me or not? And most importantly, if you'd like to get involved yourselves, click on the link below. Of course, you must be 18 plus to play, and of course, full terms and conditions apply as well. So thank you to Parimatch UK for sponsoring today's video and getting back into the news. Now let's get the silly story out the way first. And recently, news broke around us potentially looking to sign the new Endrick. Now what's funny about this new Endrick is that he's actually older than the original Endrick, so in my opinion, this PR, this marketing is getting lazier and lazier and lazier. Anyway, Italian reports by Calcio Mercato state that we are showing interest in another Palmeiras wonderkids, and this time he's a striker called Thales. Now, recently he caught some attention due to the 4 goals in 9 games he got in the Copa Sao Paulo, which is like, a big youth tournament back in Brazil. And I guess because of that and the fact that we have stupid money in this country and in Europe, all of a sudden there's a 35 to 40 million euro valuation around this guy's head. Now, in my opinion, am I expecting us to make a move for him? Absolutely not. And when you actually dissect and decipher this story, how does it make any sense? Right now, we're trying to sign Palmeiras' second best youth prospect in Estevão Willian for the same fee of around 40 to 45 million. We're looking to find a great payment structure to get this deal done. So there's no way in hell this guy is up there with Estevão Willian. It's not going to happen. How I see it though is that it works like this. All the big clubs have crazy vast scouting networks, but they know about these guys when they're like 14, 15, even younger. Like, never take for granted how in-depth clubs' knowledge around every player is around the world. So basically, if you're a reporter, you can afford to take that kind of creative license, right? And you can inject some urgency into these stories to make it sound like, technically we are showing interest because we know about him, but they take advantage of these stories. So I'm not expecting nothing to come from that. In fact, we might be slowing down with these youth purchases. I think we only hope to sign a few elite prospects right now. So fingers crossed we get some big updates around Estevão Willian. And I had to get this story out the way first. So now let's turn to an interesting report surrounding Vlahovic. And this is coming courtesy of Italian reports. Now, we all know we want to sign an elite level striker this summer, and currently Osimhen is target number 1. However, is a club like us going to rest all our eggs in one Osimhen basket? Most likely not. Considering Osimhen's release clause, his wages, it will be an expensive move, and I'm not here to say that we can't afford a move like this. I mean, come on, we're going to sell a lot of players. We've saved money by not signing in January either as well too, but realistically, anything can happen. I mean, I'm touching wood as I say this right now, with my feet, with my hands, with everything. But what if Victor even got an injury that could even kill a move? You know what I mean? Or what if something happens in life that stops us from making the move? We need to have some backup options. And I think this report today from Italy around Vlahovic is pretty interesting when you consider the context of the report. Currently, Vlahovic is in great form. 7 goals, 1 assist in 7 games. That's now 12 goals in 21 appearances, and he's a player of long-term interest from us, right? However, today reports mentioned something quite interesting, and they mentioned that from the start of next season, there's a clause in Vlahovic's contract which means that he's set to earn increased wages, right? They're going to go from 8 million per year to 12 million euros per year. And the report states that right now, Juventus are sweating because they can't afford this increase in his contracts. Now, I think what's interesting is that recently it was confirmed by Tuttosport that Vlahovic and Juventus have not reached an agreement over this new contract renewal, right? So it's quite clear to me that money is going to be, quite an important thing for Vlahovic, and it's up to Juventus now to find better, more favourable terms. So currently, they're hoping that Vlahovic will agree to signing a contract extension which takes his existing contract from 2026 to 2028. And in this deal, it would include giving him a 1 million bonus, so he'll earn around 9 million euros per year, plus bonuses that could potentially take this contract to around 10 million based on how he performs during the season. That's not a bad workaround, but then it depends on how Vlahovic is hoping to move, right? On one hand, he might accept something like this. He's quite comfortable there. But on the other hand, he might think to himself, well, maybe I've had enough time at Juventus right now. Maybe it's the best time to move because I can get the contract that I want. And maybe the Premier League is my next destination. On the other hand, he could play the long game and think, maybe I'm not even going to sign a contract extension. I'm going to remain here until my contract expires in 2026, knowing that I can leave on a free, earn a massive signing on fee, earn the most money in my prime of my career right now. But that could be riskier, knowing the fact that Juventus might be struggling to even afford to pay and meet those terms, right? So in my opinion, I see it like this, and I feel like if anything happened for Vlahovic, it will center around Romelu Lukaku, because Juventus will see it like this. If they have to cash in on him, I think they'll be more inclined to go back for Lukaku. I mean, right now, Roma are struggling to be able to afford this guy, but currently there is a 37 million euro release clause in Lukaku's contract, which is a lot more enticing for Juventus, on top of the fact that Lukaku's wages, are a lot less compared to Vlahovic's. And remember, when we were linked with this little, swap move between these guys last summer, the main focus from Juventus was based on the finances because Lukaku was cheaper and he has proven Serie A experience. So I wouldn't completely rule this one out because we need a buyer for Lukaku, and that's either going to come from Saudi Arabia or maybe from another Serie A club. All I'm saying is we can't be too naive. Of course, a club like us, we're going to have plan Bs, Cs, etc, etc. And I think not only are we still keeping interest, even though it could be light in Vlahovic, I think that will be maintained for guys like Ivan Toney as well too. I think recently Romano came out to state that there are a lot more favourable terms for Toney to leave this summer compared to last summer. And many clubs need strikers, us, United, etc, etc. I mean, Toney's comeback, he's even personally surprised me. 2 goals in 3 appearances. His overall game was absolutely great, on fire. And he's of much need and service to many clubs this summer. So, all I'm saying for the final time, I think Osimhen is the guy we definitely want, but we're not going to be naive and not prepare for any backup cases in case anything happened that ruined the deal. So that's the second story out the way. And now let's move on to the massive report this evening. And we discuss the crazy report surrounding Frenkie De Jong. And this now takes us on nicely to the final massive report of this evening. And we discuss these crazy reports surrounding Frenkie De Jong. Now these reports come from Sport.es in Spain. And come on, whenever Barcelona are facing financial difficulties or issues, expect De Jong to be the first name out on the exit list. But could this finally be the summer where De Jong actually will be available for sale? It is really starting to feel like that, and I thought this report was pretty interesting. So let me break down the news and I'll give my thoughts and opinions at the end here. Right now, there's no successful renewal talks between Frenkie De Jong and Barcelona, and that's currently put on massive clubs like Paris Saint-Germain, Man United, and most importantly us on alert, because it seems like Frenkie De Jong's camp, they're putting out positive encouragement that, their client could be available this summer. And normally for massive moves of this nature, you must put out the feelers very early on, because these deals are complicated, from financially structuring these deals, agreeing wage terms, enticing the player, etc, etc. Now, why is it more realistic that De Jong could finally leave Barcelona this summer? It comes down to a few things. Number one, let's not forget that Barca owe this guy a lot of money based on deferred payments, and that is up to the tune of 20 million euros. Now, De Jong has been, such a loyal player. He's accepted these terms, and, he's been receiving less money because he is owed a lot of money still on his deal. We can't forget that Barcelona have used many economic levers to be able to, finance and, bring investment into the team, but they're starting to run out of those levers, and they're running out of opportunities now to bring in money. And what doesn't help is that today it was confirmed that Barcelona now owe 23 million euros in due charges, and that's based on fraudulently paying sums of money to agents between the 2012 to 2015 seasons. That 23 million euros is around the same money they owe Frenkie De Jong. Of course, Deco's come out to bring some calm and clarity. He's the Barca sporting director. Listen, Barcelona, we want to keep our best players. We want to keep investing in the team. Don't give up on us right now. He's coming out with all the marketing spiel that you have to do, but it does feel like Barcelona will have to prioritize what they want to do now. It makes more sense for them to prioritize keeping their Lamine Yamals, their Alejandro Baldes, etc, etc. But to do that, I think they'll finally have to sell some big name players. And it's no surprise that names like Frenkie De Jong, Rafinha, players of this magnitude could be available in the market. There's even links around Ronaldo Araujo potentially being available this summer too. So I guess the question is, Nini, are you kind of just wasting your time discussing this story? I mean, Frenkie De Jong, we're stacked in midfield. They're quoting fees of 100 million euros. Like, what are you doing right now? This is where I want to give my thoughts and opinions now to understand the story, because there are some realities here. I think number one, when a player like De Jong is available in the market, big clubs are going to be after this guy. You're going to figure out if you can use them in your team. And I think number two, Conor Gallagher, his future is looking very iffy at this football club. He is still nowhere near close to signing any contract extensions or agreements, and for a very long time, it's been reported that we've been ready to cash in on this guy, and after a great season like this, could we still get 40 million for him? That's pure profit for a player that he can use to reinvest back in the team. And ultimately, it comes down to our sporting directors. Could they feel like with Frenkie De Jong's world-class ability, his experience, his age, could he be the type of player that you turn towards instead of using a Conor Gallagher? And in my head, I'm seeing some hypothetical ways in which De Jong could play. Now, on one hand, could De Jong be that connective player that plays on the right-hand side alongside Enzo with Caicedo at the base? Potentially, he's kind of playing that role for Barcelona. He's not someone that necessarily will get you many goals and assists, but he's a very intelligent player that keeps the team ticking, that is a great supportive player, that has incredible press resistance, great vision, playmaking. He keeps possession very well. He's the type of guy that could bring you something different in the final thirds. Or could the idea be, we're going to sell Conor Gallagher because we believe that maybe Caicedo should be replacing him in that role. We'll play him a bit more advanced with Enzo on the left-hand side, and De Jong will now be the new type of playmaker sitter at the back, because some of De Jong's best work comes from receiving from the centre-backs. And when you have a player like De Jong receiving, who's, level of press resistance and ability to play in the first lines is that high, maybe that gives you some interesting ideas behind how you look to shape and use this team right. De Jong, Caicedo, Enzo, Lavia. Could that be the future of midfield for next season? It's still very, very early to say, but because Conor Gallagher doesn't seem like he'll be signing a contract extension at this point in time, hopefully, fingers crossed, something happens here, but it's not looking very likely. All that tells me is that we will be back in the market to sign another midfield player, because having Enzo, Lavia and Caicedo is not enough. And I'd be surprised if we decide to turn towards Caicedo and others to be the replacement for Gallagher, based on their interesting seasons they're having so far. I just think that when you deep the logistics of the story, I don't think it's as crazy as it potentially seems, especially when it seems very likely now that De Jong is going to be available in the market. That many a club could turn towards using a player like this. Now, if you wanted to get my personal opinion, if I know that Barcelona have to cash out and sell some big players, ideally, I'd be looking at an Alejandro Balde in my opinion. When I look at Lamine Yamal, I mean, that's not going to happen. We ain't going to do that. Or even Pedri, absolutely not. You have to look at realistic players that you could sign. And I think right now, Barca would be happy to cash in on Frenkie De Jong. And listen, I think that Frenkie is a great player. And I don't think it would be impossible for him to play alongside Enzo and Caicedo. You know, Caicedo is getting better playing in the base. Enzo is showing good potential playing the offensive 8 role. And I think if you had that connective guy that has mastery on the football, that can play in tight spaces, that can unite these two together, the guy you pass to when you're under pressure. You know, De Jong is not a bad player, yeah, so we can't forget that whatsoever. But they're my thoughts and opinions, of course, but always constantly surprised by what we do in the summer when it comes to transfers. And we have an idea that a striker is key, a defender is key, and maybe a fullback, but you know, we always think we'll sign 1 or 2 or 3 guys and we end up signing 4, 5, 6. And I don't think it will be that different again for this summer. So how do you guys feel about this news? Let's have a debate going. Do you think De Jong could work in this midfield? Or do you think De Jong is overkill and we should decide to target maybe a different Barcelona player? So I guess I'll have to just quickly give an opinion right on the crazy report surrounding Enzo offering himself to Barcelona. Now, it's pretty funny. Maybe it's a reaction to the news around De Jong. I don't know, but there was a silly report from the Diario, the sport in Spain, that mentioned that Enzo Fernandez has put himself forward to Barcelona and he wants to leave us and go there. Now, I think after we saw his celebration against Aston Villa, you know, Hermano is going absolutely nowhere. But, you know, I was doing some digging. Obviously, the reporter that kind of confirmed the news, and Jack Talbot, you know, he was really adamant that, listen, my guy was correct with his source, and it's only natural that Enzo's agent is going to double down. So I'm kind of seeing things in 2 ways. I think on one hand, listen, the contract he signed, this guy ain't going nowhere, and Barcelona don't have that type of money whatsoever. They might try and offer De Jong to try and make something happen. I don't see it happening, and I think Enzo wants to stay here, but at the same time, let's not pretend that one of the top players in our squads, a serious elite professional, yeah, big name player like Enzo Fernandez, will not be frustrated at potentially missing out on Champions League football again. And I think because of how agents work, it's kind of their jobs to always put out feelers regardless of anything that's happening. So that doesn't mean that Enzo wants out and he's being sly and he's looking for moves away. I'm just talking about the realities of the sport. So obviously I know Enzo is going nowhere. He's happy, content here. But I also know how agents work and what they're supposed to be doing, right? But it doesn't really mean anything is concrete. There's nothing to worry about. And listen, if Barcelona have to sell big name players just to try and survive and live, yeah, they got no money for Enzo Fernandez. So I ain't worried about that whatsoever. And there's a reason why I'm leaving this story right at the end. So my friends, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Obviously share your thoughts and opinions. How do you feel about the news, the stories, how De Jong could be used, all that good stuff? Let us know below. And on that note, I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll see you guys later tomorrow with some more videos. I'll be dropping the preview for Crystal Palace, so stay tuned. See you then. Cool.